Well, we are live once again with Coffee with Humans with my new friend Sarah. Sarah, welcome to Coffee with Humans.
Thank you very much.
It's a good day outside. It's getting chilly where I'm at. I'm outside Chicago, Illinois. Where are you located?
I'm just outside Eau Claire, Wisconsin, so I'm a little north of you, and we did have flurries the other day. I'm sad
Did
to
you?
share.
Oh,
Yes.
why are you sad to share that? Flurries are amazing.
I'm just not ready. I was born and raised in Southern California, and I've been here like many years now, but I'm having trouble climatizing.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, if you've gone from southern, any place south in the States, you're not used to this whole thing. There was where was it? I feel like it was like Myrtle Beach or something like that, or I can't remember. Some place that never gets snow. And it was like this like thin dusting. The whole town was shut down. They didn't know what to do. And meanwhile, we're dealing with like 3 feet of snow and just like plowing through it.
Yeah. It was hard to get used to, and my husband always teases me because I still love to shovel. For me, it's like so new still. I'm like a little kid. I'm like, this is exciting. He's like, laugh at it.
Yeah, it wears off over time. Although maybe not for you. Maybe it is. Maybe that's just going to be your jam.
It's getting there.
Well, I don't mind shoveling either. It's a good workout if I can resign myself to just being out there in the quiet. I do really, though, enjoy. In fact, I was thinking about this today. So I've got some security cameras, and I was thinking, I'm just waiting for the snow to start coming down where I can just like take a video of it or something like that in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd
be beautiful.
I love how quiet it gets. It's like a blanket. It kind of like it quiets everything down, even the road noise, everything. Next time it snows real good, kind of notice how everything just kind of is like lulled out, that quieting effect. It's really, to me, it's fascinating. So.
I agree. Walking through a forest when it is snowing is something tremendously beautiful. I just love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And but we're not quite there yet. So I do need to know something else about you.
Sure.
Why would you choose to click the button to have coffee with me?
I was a new acquaintance of mine, Anna from Entwine Dating, told me about this great experience she had and how fun it was. And I was so intrigued. So I went to your website. I snooped on you on LinkedIn, and I started watching some of the videos. I'm like, well, this looks like so much fun. I'm like, I have to do this. This is great.
Well, I hope we can deliver on that. You have a fun topic today. What all men should know about prostate cancer. It sounds like Debbie Downer to me.
It does, yeah.
But maybe not. I don't know. So we'll see what we get into. I am looking forward to learning something more because I'm now 43, and I don't know what my future holds, obviously, but I do know I'm kind of approaching those timeframes where maybe my body's going to change on me in ways that I don't anticipate. I do intend to, though. I already maintain a reasonably healthy lifestyle, and intend to do more of that. So we'll see.
So,
go ahead.
So I'm a prostate cancer advocate, and like when somebody, and my favorite thing is like when I just meet somebody organically new, and the normal human conversation starts off as oh, what do you do for a living? Because that's you're not sizing each other up. It's just curiosity, because what we do for work and for fun shapes us, right? And so I love looking at the expression on people's faces when they learn what I do, because it's usually deer in the headlights, like, you do what? And so I am a prostate cancer advocate. I specialize in what I have dubbed the cleanup after prostate cancer treatment, because we know every gentleman is going to suffer from some level of ED and urinary incontinence. And that can be a very, very embarrassing thing for gentlemen to deal with. And it can affect relationships and intimacy, all sorts of stuff like that. And so prostate cancer, we know, is genetic, and it's also related to breast cancer. So for guys, if your mother had breast cancer or your grandmother had breast cancer, you're at an increased risk of developing prostate cancer. And so it's something that both sexes kind of need to put on their radar. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get it, but it definitely increases your odds of developing it. There's other things like, poor diet, lack of exercise, things like that we already know that put us at an increased risk for cancers. Some environmental factors. We know that military is in an increased risk for, so our vets are in an increased risk of developing prostate cancer as well too. And some genetics too. So things like that, we say that if there is a family history of breast cancer or prostate cancer, which is the BRCA1 or 2 gene, that should just be on your radar. And something as simple as just, when you go on for your yearly physical, just say, hey, let's do that mammogram starting at age 40, and let's just do a blood work and check our PSA levels starting at age 40. And if you do have a family history, make sure you let your primary care provider know. And that just kind of puts it on the radar for them too. And they'll help guide you through those initial steps. So it's really not super invasive right off the bat, but it's something good to put out there. So
well, you're not going to like my plan. My plan is to not go for a yearly checkup, because it's kind of like
you don't know what you don't have.
It's like taking your car in to a mechanic. There's going to be something wrong. How wrong? Questionable. But I know. But
it's so funny. My husband, we've been married 26 years. He knows what I do for a living. He sits on the opposite wall as me and works from home. And so he hears all day long me talking, lecturing people, giving them a hard time, get your butt in there. It's not like the 60s and 70s where if we got diagnosed with either of these two cancers, our chances of survival were significantly reduced. They're very treatable cancers now. They're easier to treat the sooner you are aware of them. So knowledge is power. Remember that from growing up? Knowledge is power. How many times do we hear that on our Saturday morning cartoons? And so, it's just something that if you're going to have it, your recovery, the invasiveness of it and everything, the cleanup is just so much better and your quality of life. So, but my husband hadn't been to the doctors in 20 years until last week. And of course, I was not having it. I was giving him a hard time. I'm like, honey, come on.
Yeah.
His father had prostate cancer. We know it runs in the family. His mother, some of the sisters have had breast cancer. My father-in-law's mother died of breast cancer. So he's got it coming from both sides. And I said, you're playing with fire. You have all this knowledge because of what, I do for a living. Why wouldn't you use that to your advantage? So he finally went into the doctors. And he gave me permission to share this story. He finally went into the doctors, reluctantly, kind of kicking and screaming, fine, I'll do it. And he told the doctor, and he spent about 10 minutes talking to the doctor about what I do for a living, right? About the family history. So the doctor says, okay, well, let's order you a blood panel. We'll check your glucose and, your cholesterol, all that stuff, the typical. And so he went down to the lab and they said, okay, let's do the blood panel. And he goes, what are you testing for? And she named off everything, but PSA number wasn't on there. He's like, that was the whole reason I came in. And he was so kind of like taken back, like I fell through the cracks. So she says, well, I don't have an order for it. So go ahead, go home, message your, through the new messaging system with most of the healthcare systems, message, your care team, and we'll hold on to the blood for a little bit and we'll do it. They didn't do it. So he had to go back in yesterday to get his blood drawn again. And it was like making this, what was supposed to be a very graceful that I had lectured to him process, had made it 100 times worse. So he resented the whole process that much more. I'm like, no, this is not how this was supposed to unfold. And he got his numbers. We're out at lunch yesterday. He got his numbers back and he flips the phone around to me and he says, look, I'm good. I said, good. So,
well, there you go. Yeah, I think it's great how women take care of their husbands by telling them to go to doctors.
And just because you guys are such big babies, no offense, but when you get it's cold. It's kind of like, oh my.
That's nonsense.
It's true.
It is totally true. We are big babies.
A woman who
100%.
says, oh my goodness, yeah, you're curled up on the couch or in your favorite chair, and there's no moving you.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Last time I was at the doctor, I don't even know when it was. It was years ago, and he said you have high cholesterol.
Okay.
And he said, you could take some medication for that, or you could go get your diet under control.
Yeah.
And I said, neither, but goodbye. He also said at the time, I think, I must have been in my late 30s. That's what it must have been my late 30s. He said, you're getting up to that point in time where we might have to, give you the slippery finger or something. And I was like, nope, not happening. Goodbye. Peace out. And I have no reason to go back. Not going to do it.
So that's funny. So my husband asked for the DRE, which is the digital rectal exam, because some clinics still believe in it. We go back and forth on whether it's.
I've heard that it doesn't matter anymore. Like it's not a thing anymore.
So that is kind of the same thought. So the first thing is to set a baseline for your PSA, find out what your numbers are, because that's a pretty good indicator, and get a baseline. Just because if you go 2 years down the road, it should be every year. But if you say there's a gap in there and you see a big spike, then we know, okay, this is where you were when you were younger and healthy. And now suddenly you're up here. It's kind of like, we should probably look into that a little bit. So but shame on you. Yeah, no. And, when we're younger, we always think that we can eat whatever we want, drink whatever we want. And we're just going to be, we're never going to gain any weight. We're going to be superhuman. We're going to look amazing forever. And the reality is you hit middle age and it's like, huh.
I disagree with you. Shame on me. Who do you think you are?
Somebody who cares about men and knows how treatable this can be.
How did you get into this? This is an odd line of work.
So
for a woman.
It really is. And I get that a lot of times. What on earth could this woman know about penises and cancer and,
No, like I didn't say that. I think women can know a lot about penises. But why would you go down this road of like prostate cancer and ED and all, you say the cleanup, which is a little disgusting way to say it, but the cleanup from this stuff, how,
the fallout.
Why would you do this?
Because I've always been in the fitness and healthcare industry. I've always been in the medical field. And it wasn't until it started hitting close to home. My father-in-law, and I realized that men just really struggled to talk about the subjects of erectile dysfunction, urinary incontinence, and kind of the very ungraceful ugliness. When you take a man's ability to get an erection away, whoa, you are attacking the core of who he is,
Totally.
And there is so many wonderful ways that we can address it and treat it. And a lot of men don't know about it. They just think it's a little blue pill. You could take, remember the little blue pill, and that will just fix everything. But that only works for so long, because our bodies are incredibly smart. And as time goes on, they kind of build up immunity to that medicine. And so whatever the underlying condition is that is creating the ED does nothing but continue to progress. And the body's like, yeah, I'm not playing that game anymore. And so then we have to start getting creative with other ways. A lot of guys don't know that there's other things out there available to them. So without that knowledge and that education, they don't know to talk to their doctors and say, this isn't working anymore. What else do you got for me? Because all doctors have all sorts of tools in their tool bag that they can pull out and make available to these guys. And so I was living, on the sidelines and watching this unfold. And being that I was in the medical field, I was like, wow, this just isn't getting talked about. And so I started looking into some of this stuff. And when I was researching this information for the family members, the people I was making these connections with, they're like, Sara, you just talk so well about this. Your medical background, you just make this such a comfortable subject for gentlemen. You need to become more involved. And that's what it was. It found me. I didn't go looking for it. And it's my comfortableness and my ability to make men feel at ease and the willingness to work with them and want to genuinely help them to improve their quality of life so that they are living the highest quality of life that they can.
Yeah. So. Well, I do sense that in you, that you would make a person feel at ease discussing this sort of topic. And I know I'm giving you a hard time because you can take it.
I love it.
Because you are in uncharted territory.
I am. There's not too many of me. And the need is so great. Every day I must talk to about 20 to 30 guys a day, and every day I hear the same thing over and over again. It's like, wow, I didn't know that existed. I wish I would have known about this sooner, and so I want to make clones of myself, and be in every doctor's office. They go see their doctor, they get their diagnosis, they get their treatment, and then they come see me, and I can kind of like, okay, what is concerning you? What would you like to work on? What would you like help with? What are your goals? And so that's kind of what my focus has been now with my advocacy part is helping gentlemen navigate what their goals are, what levels of intimacy they would like to, revisit, and where they're at in the recovery process. Yeah.
I think it's a really important thing that you're doing. I mean, all joking aside, because for men, I mean, you said it yourself. You take away a man's ability to have an erection and have sex and intimacy, and you've taken away the core way men experience intimacy with their partners.
Absolutely.
And without that, you've emasculated him.
Yep.
It's like, am I even a man anymore? And it's not that. And I know we kind of live in this culture of, quote unquote, toxic masculinity or whatever you want to call this nonsense.
The locker room talk, right?
Sure. But beyond that, it's not toxic for a guy, like innately to feel that sex is his way of connecting. There's nothing toxic about that. It's the way we're built. And when you strip that away, either culturally and say, well, stop thinking about sex so much, like, no, I'm not going to. And then you strip it away physically from a guy just because of life, it's circumstances he didn't choose.
Right.
What do you? It's a real big, I think, service you're doing for people to be able to allow men to connect in that way. Because the other thing, like we've talked about, men don't want to talk about their stuff. We don't want to go to the doctor. We are big babies. And we don't, and so we communicate as though we're not, but we are. And we do kind of want to be coddled and taken care of and be like, hey, are you going to tell me it's okay? Please, somebody tell me it's okay. But we're also, kind of strong as well, and pigheaded.
Stubborn. Oh, you're all stubborn. I love you dearly, though. And that's what I love about men. If you took the stubbornness away, I don't know what there'd be left, but that makes up that dynamic. But, what I say is, it's that locker room talk that we always have, and the quality of a man has nothing to do with the size of his erection, his ability to get an erection. It has nothing to do with it. But that's how guys, the standards they hold themselves to, all sizing each other up and stuff like that. That has nothing to do with, what a loving husband or father or partner you are. And so men need to, and my goal is to help men separate themselves from that, and we know that humans are very physical creatures. We need intimacy on all sorts of different levels, and when we are intimate and we're physically bond and connect and have those moments of tenderness, we don't fight as much, you're not going to kibitz with your significant other as much and stuff like that. And it's so important. We're very physical creatures. And that, like you said, that's how we express ourselves in so many ways. And so if you take that away and you make it hard to revisit or shame it or it just becomes very difficult. And then what a lot of people don't realize too is women suffer from sexual dysfunction as well too. And so when women go through menopause, we have a decrease in hormones and vaginal moisture and all sorts of other things, blood flow and stuff like that. And so it's a use it or lose it for women as well too. And so when you've got both things fighting each other and coming at it, then you compound the situation. She doesn't want it, or it's uncomfortable, or can't do it anymore. And well, he, can't get an erection, or is struggling, or is having trouble having those conversations with his physician. And now we avoid each other and intimacy altogether. And I heard this great saying one time. It's like, once you hit a certain age, we're not making babies anymore. So how we're intimate doesn't need to look like that. There's a lot of pleasure that can be had externally too. So we need to retrain ourselves to still connect, to still bond, to still, provide that level of intimacy and tender touch. And, so And that's what I try to do is, okay, what do you have? What is able? What are you willing to do? What is the dynamic of your relationship? And then let's visit about that.
And that's the critical matter anyhow. Communication among, I think, about this type of topic, particularly between partners who, like you say, everybody's got something at some point in time that they're dealing with and probably don't want to talk about it. And to be able to have quality communication between two people who do really care for each other.
Yeah.
And with the goal of working through to a solution, sitting the problem out there and then saying, okay, how are we going to attack this thing together and come to a solution to be able to achieve the intimacy that we absolutely do need as humans. That's got to be a challenge. It's got to be a challenge for you.
It is. And you know, and you end up asking some pretty personal questions right off the bat, but I think it's getting, if once a guy feels comfortable with you and talking to you and say, okay, this is what I'm missing. This is what we used to have. I know maybe I can't have that anymore, but what can I do to get as close to that, you know, and
Yeah.
figuring out that dynamic of that relationship and helping them is just, it's such a wonderful thing. And then when they call back and they say, you know, oh my goodness, Sara, you know, thank you so much. Or, you know, and it's not going to be solved overnight, you know, and it takes time. Relationships are a constant work in progress, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're always evolving, you know, and so anybody who tells you a marriage or a relationship is a cakewalk, you know, has not really been in a
has never been married.
It's ever evolving. and
anybody who says that is stupid.
Yeah, and it takes constant work and love and patience. Lots of patience and communication. Yeah. Absolutely.
But what a gift. I think, so you know, full disclosure, I'm divorced now. And I didn't intend to get divorced. I did it to myself. And I, you know, it's not certainly not my finest moment, but I was married for 22 years. And the fallout, that's pretty significant, right? Emotionally, and having to deal with all those things. And then, you know, who I knew myself to be as a, you know, kind of quote quality man, you know, good husband, good father, you know, you take those types of things away and then you're just like, oh shoot. Like, how do I pick this up? You know, am I good? Like, am I a good guy? Right. And you reevaluate all these things.
Yes.
And then look back or look into, you know, other people's relationships. You're like, wow, yeah, that is a lot of work. And also looking back and like, I was pretty good at that for a period of time. And then, but as things change and as things evolve, being able to communicate and really mesh the gears together is a significant challenge. And I've never, you know, like I said, you know, I've been pretty healthy my whole life, and, you know, my wife is healthy too, where we never had these challenges, you know, with sex or, you know, erectile dysfunction. We don't have histories of cancers that run in the family. It was a pretty uneventful, very classic, right? Exactly. Yeah. And I look at some people, you know, and I have hundreds of these talks too, but like I look at some people like, man, people really deal with some serious stuff. Yeah. And I wonder if that's not a gift that's given to us to be able to deal with really tough issues together with a person. Certainly. That's actually a bonding element. And instead of pushing that stuff away, go, no, I want to deal with this stuff with my partner, you know, and let this bond us together as a form of intimacy.
Certainly. So, you know, my husband was military, and that's actually how I met him, because I was born and raised in Southern California, in Orange County, and he was stationed at one of the military bases out there. And so we had moved about 14 times before we landed where we are now. And that was really hard on our two children when they were growing up. And it was difficult on us too, because you're picking up your life. You know, my husband had always, you know, made more than I had. And so he kind of dictated where we lived. And as he would, you know, pick a new career or a new job, we would find ourselves, you know, of course, following him and supporting him. And I think that constant changing, new neighborhoods, new schools, new everything, it forced our family unit to really be close, because we're all we had. And so I do agree with you, and what you're saying is, yeah, we had challenges. As you know, it takes a lot to pick up your entire life and move. So
That's a really great observation. You talk about this forcing, when everything is in flux around you, it forces the family unit to be stronger. We my example for that, we this is, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that. Um, we traveled for a bit in a camper, and month and a half at a time or so. We would get to a point where we were sort of at each other's throats as we can, day one was like super exciting. Day two was like, this is pretty good. Day three was like, why are you still here? And then, 7 days later, it was just like, I've got to get out of this space with you. I'm going to murder my children. And and they didn't like me either. But it was interesting that about 10 to 14 days, everything just came to a head, and then all of a sudden, boom, right on the opposite end of that, right through the 10 to 14 days, it was like all of a sudden we just like whoop, just meshed in a way that was unbelievable, really. And I was just like, wow, we all just get along. It was like all those little things just like whoop, gone. And I don't know how, it's some sort of mystery, but I think the lesson, like what you're talking about, and my example, and then tying that back into what we're talking about here from an intimacy standpoint, is don't back away from the challenge. Don't back away from the struggle. Push through the struggle, push through the challenge, because it is right on the other side of that challenge and that struggle that you really have a true connection that you will never find if every time you encounter struggle and challenge, you just back away from it, such as these difficult conversations that maybe partners don't want to have with each other.
And don't assume you know what the other person is thinking and feeling. Ask them, and if they're not comfortable talking about it, ease into it. Don't hold them hostage, sit them down and be like, okay, we're going to talk about this. That never works well. Is just kind of like, I've noticed this is bothering you, or you're concerned about this, or, when you're comfortable about it, I think we should talk about it, and just find those moments when it's appropriate, but don't hold them hostage. Don't make them feel like, the interrogation with the light or anything like that.
Right.
So find those gentle ways to approach those subjects that is comfortable to your significant other or your family member. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my husband would love, and his dreams were sailors. We got into sailing when the kids left. We decided to look for a new hobby for the two of us to kind of bond together, because we had our hobbies prior, to our marriage and everything, but we never really had anything that was like ours. And we're like, okay, they always say that like quality relationships and marriages and stuff like that, you have something that, unifies you and connects you. And then you build those memories, and those you learn together, and you're equal moving forward. So sailing was our thing. And so his dream is either when we retire or we become millionaires from cryptocurrency. It's another joke, but is that we'll sell everything and we'll live on a sailboat. And I'm just thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know if I could do that, because like with a camper, you could get out, you could go for a walk. You could, take a deep breath outside. On a boat, you're on the water. You can go maybe to the bow of the boat, maybe to the back of the boat. But I mean, you're surrounded by water. I don't know.
That'd be a different experience. I tell you what, who you could talk to. I'm going to forget the name here, but it was actually one of the first Coffee with Human chats that I live streamed, which would have been probably, oh geez. Hold on. I feel like I have to find this for you now. There's a couple out on the West Coast, Portland area, or Seattle, maybe one or the other, that lives on a sailboat.
And there, if you go on YouTube, there's tons of couples that are, streaming and, recording their lives, and, are floating and documenting every second of it. And of course, they only show the glamorous parts, right? They don't show,
right,
the ugly parts. But yeah. And of course, so you see this and it just looks so glamorous. And they're like, well, we could do this,
Yeah. He worked in IT, and then,
that's what my husband does.
Yeah, he worked in IT, and then she was a coach.
So that's so funny. There must be something about computers and wanting to get as far away from them. My husband says he has such a hard time like
Oh yeah,
disconnecting, because he works
for
with
sure.
computers for a living. He's just like, by the end of the day, and of course, then that's when I'm trying to bring him in and have him help me with my electronic stuff. He's like, and he says I'm the worst user. So, and he's not an Apple fan too, and I love Apple. Like all my electronics and my phone, my iPad, my computer, everything's Apple. And he's a big Microsoft fan. So, and he goes, not only are you the worst user, he says, but I hate supporting Apple. So,
Yeah, that's got to be terrible for him.
So
this, go back to. If I don't find it real fast here, I'll give up. But they live on a boat. And they were both on separately. Hugh.
Okay.
Hugh Creasy. Hugh and Lynn Creasy.
I'll check it out.
That back in October and November of last year. It was one of my first live streams. Real interesting to live on a boat. If you get in contact with them, and they'd be happy to talk to you, I guarantee it. They'll give you some pointers on how to go do about this whole boat thing. They moved their boat from like the Netherlands or something like that and had it shipped across. I mean, real interesting way to live. And then they have it docked or wherever, and live on it. And I suppose why not? I mean, when I was growing up, we had a tiny boat, like 23, 24 footer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was enough that it had a little cabin on it. And we would go up to a lake in Wisconsin. Well, Madison, you know where it's at.
Yeah.
And we'd be on Lake Mendota. And once in a while, we'd spend the night, on the sailboat. And it was awesome. It was so cool.
What, do you remember the make? Was it a Catalina or was it like a Hunter?
I don't know.
What was it? Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah, and we just sold our 25 footer. It actually just this last week, and I actually cried. I'm embarrassed to admit this. I actually cried as it was pulling out. I didn't expect it. It just like came out of nowhere, and I was just like, there it goes. And it was just like,
yeah.
And a man he's just moved from New York to South Carolina. And he saw it online and connected with my husband, and he ended up purchasing it. And so that's where it was going. And as it was driving away, I was just like, there were so many memories that had happened on that boat, and especially like during the pandemic and everything. It was
right.
Those safe things that you could go do. And it was such a release. And what you dream about it, up here, I call it the frozen tundra. So living up here in the frozen tundra, you really cherish those summer and those warm months, those few that we get. And so, you make the most of them. So absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I missed, the sailboat has been sitting for a long, long time. My dad stopped sailing it, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. I don't know. It's a long time. Which is regretful, I think. I'd love to rehab it. I don't even know if that can be done at this point in time. I know nothing about rehabbing boats.
Sitting inside, absolutely. You'd be amazing at how durable those things are. It's pretty much, it's going to be like the sails and the lines and stuff like that. Those are probably what need to be replaced, if anything. But it's doable, certainly.
Yeah, I'd love to bring it back because, like you talk about, there are these memories. I have memories of going like in an afternoon. Dad would be like, I'm tired of working. We'd head up to the sailboat and we'd tool around on the sailboat for a while, and then we'd come back home. And I remember my dad had a car phone. It was a big old thing. And
card antenna.
We're like, he's like, call your mom and figure out what we're doing for dinner. And be like, hi mom. And it wasn't like today's digital phones. It was analog. So it was like talking through a walkie-talkie. So it was like, hi mom, hold on. And it really wasn't great, but it was super cool to be able to be like, hey, we're just on a sailboat and I'm talking on this car phone.
I know my friends, growing up, my friend's dad had one in her Mercedes, and I remember like calling, and it's just like, that was back in the day when you knew everybody's phone number by heart. Now right. I was like, I don't know my daughter's. I don't know my mom's. Like it's fake.
Yeah, I don't know.
You cheat, right?
I found that some people don't even know their own phone numbers, apparently, is what I've heard,
Oh,
which
well,
seems absolutely ridiculous.
I constantly am giving it to patients or reminding them, because like I'll call them, like I'll get a referral from a doctor's office and they'll ask me, it's very common for them to ask me to reach out to a patient. They don't have time. The physicians only get like 15-20 minutes with each patient. So they'll refer guys out to me for me to kind of then spend a little bit more time and visit with them. And so I'll call them, and if they don't have caller ID, and he's like, well, I'll call you back. I'm like, let me give you my phone number, because otherwise, how are you going to do that? It's pretty funny. But what a great way for you to rebond with your dad, though, if you got back into it.
Wouldn't that be fun?
I think
I'm thinking about it. What? So so this does beg the question: how do you work with people virtually then? I mean,
So
how does this work?
And that's an ever evolving process, especially over the last 2 years. So I used to travel to, there's a big prostate cancer support network called Us Too. And they're based out of Chicago there. And they do all sorts of prostate cancer advocacy and education and stuff like that. They have over 200 prostate cancer support groups all across the United States and abroad. There's a couple in Canada, Australia, Bahamas, Hawaii. And what I was doing is I was traveling to each of the prostate cancer support groups, and I would visit with the groups, and the younger guys, what they're experiencing is very different from the older gentlemen who've, survivors 15-20 years down the road. And so I would just kind of get a flavor for what it was that group wanted to know about. And I would bring my goodie bag, a huge bag that I bring with all sorts of supplies and products that guys don't know that are available out there as well too, to help them, that they can purchase on their own. And then the pandemic hit, and I kind of like halted, and I kind of like froze and didn't do anything for like a few months. And then all of a sudden, the prostate cancer support groups started becoming online, and they started doing monthly Zoom calls. And that's when I started being a guest speaker on these monthly Zoom calls, and then presenting virtually. And so we were still able to touch those groups. And it was great, because then the wives would come in, or the significant other, the partner would come in, and they would sit down. And so I actually found it far more intimate, because you're sitting in the comfort of your own home. You can invite whoever you want, and you could show your face or not, so level of privacy that is wonderful to be able to provide, and to be able to listen in and kind of hear some of those great questions, that, other guys are experiencing. And I'm starting to get some requests to come back again, because it's been like a year and a half, 2 years. And it's like, Sarah, it's been a little bit. Can you come back and visit again? Because it's ever evolving. And then I have a lot of clinics who've kind of learned about me too. And so I will get a lot of like physician liaisons for different urology offices will send patients my way, and they'll ask me to reach out to them and provide consultation and just, Sarah, this gentleman's struggling with this, can you navigate and talk to him about it? And that's a great thing to be able to offer too. I wish more clinics would use me. So, but yeah, that's kind of what I do, is just trying to get in front of the patients and making them aware, that there is help out there. There is support out there. So you don't have to go through it alone. So
that's super important. I can imagine that this is it's a very isolating topic. And then even when you can connect with your significant other about, on this matter, you still might feel like, hey, we're alone, drifting on this raft in the middle of nowhere. And who do we talk to? So that's awesome. I think it's another testament to COVID being able to for those of us who look for opportunities, being able to use this thing. Yeah. Right? Exactly. It's like, wow, now I can connect in new ways.
It was sink or swim, and I had to evolve overnight. And I look back, and it was so intimidating, because I'm not a super technically savvy person, even though I'm married to one. It was kind of like, okay, how am I going to still be able to touch and communicate with patients and, partners and physicians and stuff like that, and still let them know that I'm available and that I want to do this. But how we do it has changed, and for the better, to not be afraid of it too, because we worry about internet security and all that stuff. And there's still very safe ways to be able to do this,
Yeah.
So,
Well, if people want to get in contact with you, they go to pivotalrehab.com. Is that true?
yes, go to pivotalrehab.com. My contact information's on there, and I'd be more than happy to begin conversations and help, either if I don't know the answer, I will help you find that answer and point you in the direction that you need. So,
yeah. Wow. Well, I mean, this is an unexpected topic to have on Coffee with Humans. And for our viewers and listeners, the people who watch and listen all the time, they already know the drill. But for our newer folks, I didn't know you 50 minutes ago.
no.
And we just got to know each other on this coffee call that's available to the world. And I didn't know what we were going to talk about. Other than you want to talk about prostate cancer and erectile dysfunction, all these things that people don't want to talk about.
No.
And you make it's true. You said, hey, you make it approachable and you make it friendly and you have these open conversations and that puts people at ease. And I guarantee that's true. I've had a fantastic conversation about this topic that I didn't want to talk about.
I bet. I do. Yeah, I bet. And and what's hard too is like for guys, I feel the worst for the gentlemen who are getting back into the dating scene, like a second marriage, and they're trying to navigate, the recovery process with ED, and they're getting back into the dating scene, and it's just like, for guys, it's like, how do I even begin to date with now this, this extra trouble or issue, and how do I start this conversation, so yeah. Wow.
Well, folks can reach out to pivotalrehab.com. Sara, thanks so much for joining me on Coffee with Humans. I've had a fantastic time, and it really is a great thing that you're doing, I think, in the world, because these types of topics are so isolating and lead to depression and all sorts of things that are unnecessary if people would realize they're not alone, and there are things that people can do, which would first obviously include talking to somebody like yourself to help navigate this, strange new world the person might find themselves in.
Thank you so much for having me.
All righty. Well, folks, this has been another Coffee with Humans. You can catch us live periodically on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and other places, and then also catch the podcast on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and more. This is Coffee with Humans. Catch you next time.
One of the things I love about Coffee with Humans are the raw conversations I get to have, meeting new people just like you. If you or someone you know should be on Coffee with Humans, go to coffeewithhumans.com. Remember, the only rule is no sales calls.
This has been Coffee with Humans. Subscribe to get updates or click to have coffee with me. coffeewithhumans.com.